All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be talking to you today as I fumble around trying to get my stream on as many platforms as possible. So here we're going to go right on to the Halitics group. And as I'll say it's good. We see a little more growth. Every time there's a new subscriber, I think it's a good thing, whether it's in Facebook, Halitics, or on YouTube or wherever. So we just want to keep seeing that little incremental growth. I do urge you, please, if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. Even if you're never going to watch me again, hey, I still want you to subscribe, click the like, do everything you can to get the word out about Halitics. Again, we're kind of unique. I don't know anyone else who does a program quite like me. There's some overlap in politics with me and Brianna Joy Gray, some other podcasters you may be familiar with. Sometimes I have a real affinity with the due distance bros, and I've gotten to enjoy generational change. So those are some podcasters who I think do a real good job. Generational Change, JEN for Jen Perlman, and she and her broadcast partner Peter, I think, do a really nice job. I learn a lot from them. She's pretty awesome. She has real progressive cred. Jen Perlman having primaried Debbie Wasserman Schultz several times in Florida, and she's basically given up. She was part of brand new Congress trying to change Congress, run real progressives against the Democratic incumbents. And she's kind of recognized, she's come around, just like me. I thought, hey, that's a great strategy. Let's try to replace bad Democrats with good Democrats. What happens is you replace bad Democrats with okay Democrats who become bad pretty quickly. That's what we found has happened, and we've got to go in a different direction. We just have to start electing Greens and true independents, not independents who are going to caucus with the Democrats, but independents who are going to be independent. That is, I think, the only real way out of the existential threats, the existential challenges we face right now. And some people don't like that term existential. They say, well, you're overstating it. It's hyperbolic. I don't think it is. We are really facing an ecocide right now, the sixth great extinction. I don't think there's really any doubt among most earth scientists, most biologists, really earth biologists, that's exactly what we're doing to our planet. We're just destroying it. And when I bring earth scientists into it too, because they look at the climate, they look at sort of broader trends. And so they can see as well what we're doing, what humans have done, created just a vast experiment, a vast science project on our planet. And we're continuing to stab her in the heart. That is what we're doing to our mother. The genocide in Gaza is clearly an existential threat as well to the Gazans, but really I think to humanity. It's a challenge that we have failed. We have met a challenge. We are facing a challenge, and we have failed to address it. So let's start there. Let's start in Gaza. This is from Anadolu Ajansi, and I have to kind of modify one of the death counts I gave yesterday, but what Anadolu Ajansi reports is 20 more dead in the past 24 hours, and they report the shelling in Khan Yunis, Gaza City, Jabal. So this is the first day of Eid. I don't know, I don't really know the Muslim holidays at all. I guess there's Ramadan. I don't know. I would assume Eid is every year, but for some reason I thought we already had Eid. So is it twice yearly? I doubt it, but I'm not real clear. So regardless, Israel showing zero compassion, zero empathy, zero concern for the religion of the people who they're wiping off the face of the earth. And I guess you'd be pretty reasonable to ask, well, why would they? Why would they show any concern for the people that they're eradicating? Obviously, they don't. And I see this as Eid is March, but yet it's not March. It's June. So I'm kind of confused because, and I looked at that date about 10 different times. We'll have to figure this out, but you can see it is, according to Anadolu Ajansi, it's the first day of Eid, and yet if you look at the date, it says June 6, 6, right? And it's not like I'm getting confused, like it's the day but not the month, or the month, because it's 6/6. So whether you go 6th day of June 25 or June 6, 2025, it's the same day. So I'm kind of confused. I don't quite understand that, but 20 more dead, according to Anadolu Ajansi. And we have Eid is supposedly, it says Thursday, March. Oh, that's 26. So maybe it is, yeah, I guess it's Eid 25. Next year, it's going to be in March for some reason that it completely escapes me. Or this is Eid al-Adha. Again, I'm a little confused. But what we can take away from this is 20 more dead killed by Israel on the eve of an important Muslim holiday. The count we're going to show you at this point, up to 54,697 confirmed dead. And again, the number very likely is in the hundreds of thousands. Population of a little over 2 million when Israel really ramped up its killing in the wake of October 7. So somewhere between 55,000 at a bare minimum, up into the hundreds of thousands. And we're adjusting down by 50. Yesterday had 4,472 Gazans killed. That was a double count. I had counted the 70 from yesterday twice. So we're going to revise it down 50, 70 minus the 20 that Israel killed. So we're now at 44,022 since Trump and Netanyahu violated the ceasefire. Trump green-lighted Netanyahu to just go ahead and start massacring Palestinians again in Gaza. And we're looking at probably, and at this point, maybe north of 2,000 children. So just an absolutely horrible situation. And again, I don't see how we don't view this as an existential threat. It clearly reflects the failure, a massive failure on the part of humanity, that we're allowing this to happen, that we're watching this happen, that the United States is allowing this to happen, and providing the weaponry. If you want to join me, it is a Friday, 240-242-5646, 240-242-5646. I do want to recommend, if you haven't seen it, the program I did yesterday with my friend Carlos. That's the New York State of Mind, and I'll show you the thumbnail. So this was recorded last night. I did this with Carlos, and I just went ahead. I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just use it for today's free-for-all, or at least part of it, just broadcast the video as part of today's program. But I decided, no. It was kind of a little bit time sensitive because we had in detail discussion, as you can imagine, with that title, New York State of Mind. And I put in city because it's New York City, and there's an old map there from the New York City Library collection. They put this online. It's public domain, so I'm using it. A real nice map of Manhattan and the outer boroughs right there. So New York City State of Mind. We talk a little bit about pizza. We talk a lot about the mayor's race. And I thought it was kind of time sensitive because we didn't address the debate. There was a debate Wednesday night, and that got a lot of media attention yesterday and this morning. So we're going to talk a little bit about that debate. I have a clip from it. I thought I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic that Cuomo lost a little bit of the edge, because he's got a slight edge according to the latest polling from Emerson, even with that 10 rounds of, it takes 10 rounds of the ranked choice voting elimination to get him into the Gracie Mansion. But ultimately, in the last poll, Emerson says, yes, he ultimately, that is the former governor, the disgraced governor, will prevail. So a little bit more. We talk quite a bit about Cuomo, and then we'll get to, that is, Carlos and I do. We talk quite a bit about Cuomo in our conversation that's posted, it's on Halitics, and I link to it, of course, on Facebook. But just a little bit more, we discussed this. Cuomo aides, I want to be real clear what happened. So, Cuomo was faced with a situation with COVID, and he could spend a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money, and, to protect the citizens of the city and put seniors in relatively isolated locations where they would be likely, prevented from being contacted by those with COVID, or he could jam everyone together. And he went with, which is cheaper. And he went with the latter option. He put people who have COVID, he just said to nursing homes, you have to take them. State-run nursing homes, you have to take them, but we'll give you immunity from lawsuits. So, you can take risks with people's lives. The first iteration of COVID, the deadliest, thousands dying. And once the report came out, it became clear that the aides there had omitted nearly 10,000 deaths. They just sort of didn't die, or they didn't die in the nursing homes. There was an excuse. Well, they weren't in the nursing homes, because what would happen is apparently the operators of some of these homes were directed, well, take the people out, rush them to the hospital. If someone looks really, really sick, they're gray, they're green around the gills, their pulse is really weak, then just get them out of your home so we don't have to report them as having died in a New York State nursing home, right? We can say, well, they died in the way of the hospital, something of that sort. So they played games, they fudged around with the deaths, and this was all designed to not make the mayor look too bad, even though he deserved to look really, really bad. And they asked him about it. They said, well, why did the reports understate very significantly the number of people who died in state care? Why, or in state nursing homes? Why? Or in nursing homes that had contracts with the state, or just privately run nursing homes where you had directed the operators to take in people who were sick. Why did your report omit nearly 10,000 deaths? Oh, I don't know. We don't know. We were trying to be accurate. Did you have anything to do with it? No. The mayor's clear. No, I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know that that's what they were doing. So according to the New York Times, and this is 24 because he was subpoenaed to appear before Congress, and I don't recall seeing or revising any report, but the New York Times, which is, of course, going to be pro-Cuomo, this was a bit of a spat. Well, this was before Trump took office, but at a point when the Republicans were making, I think they were they calling? Would they have the majority last year? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't even have the majority in Congress. I think they did. Yeah, no, it was... I'll have to look that up. But regardless, whoever, it doesn't really matter. Congress investigated Cuomo. And he said, I don't know anything about that report. And a review of emails and congressional documents showed just the opposite. He personally wrote parts of early drafts. And that the New York Times trying to, that they would do anything to protect the Cuomo. He's a centrist Dem. He's a corporate Dem. He's just exactly up the New York Times alley. And yet, even they had to admit, although they said seemed to, but there were a number of people who said, no, he was actually directing us to to edit out certain aspects of the report that presumably he thought were damning, and to add in, verbiage that would make him look less culpable. So that's what he did. 240-242-5646. Yeah, it was a Republican Congress. So there was always that patina or that scintilla of partisanship, right? That they're not really interested in getting to the bottom, to getting to the truth of what happened in New York. It's just designed to embarrass the other party. And of course, both Democrats and Republicans play that game. They both try to humiliate the malefactors or alleged malefactors, people who did something wrong. They really try to rake them over the coals if they're members of the other party. So there was definitely some of that with regard to Cuomo. But even in that environment, the New York Times had to admit, yeah, Cuomo lied to Congress. He said, I had nothing to do with this, and yet he did. And he did it because he was trying to protect his ass, cover his ass. So that's a really, really bad thing that Andrew Cuomo did. And another thing that he did, and I'm not the biggest believer that the most important thing we can do is find out, whether Brett Kavanaugh may or may not have engaged in inappropriate behavior when he was a prep student at Georgetown Prep or when he was a freshman the first year at Yale. I think there's more important things to worry about when determining whether to confirm a justice or when deciding whether to vote for a politician. I think a lot of times these allegations of sexual harassment or other types of bad behavior are weaponized. They're used to try to take somebody down rather than to get to the truth or even bring about some manner of justice. But we have over a dozen claims of sexual harassment against Cuomo. They're serious. They're while he was in office. He was using the power of the governor's mansion to molest and harass women, grab at them. I mean, I don't go through it, but grabbing their buttocks, grabbing their breasts, just wrong, grinding. I mean, just really inappropriate stuff. Gross, really just gross. That's who Andrew Cuomo is. He should not be the mayor of New York. Now, there was a guy, Elliot Spitzer, I think there were some he was the attorney general for the state of New York. He was a real progressive. He actually went after Wall Street and he got Me Too'd. And I guess what he had done was wrong, but I don't really, I say I guess because I'm not clear as to what the specific allegations were against him. But if I have to choose between two candidates and one I think is going to be much better than the other, then yeah, maybe in certain circumstances I'll overlook as a voter allegations that were not confirmed, where there was no conviction, there were no criminal charges brought. But this isn't like that. This is a lot of complaints. They're similar in nature. He was using the power of his office to abuse people. And he's a really bad candidate on top of everything else. He's corrupt. He's a corporatist. There's zero reason to elect Andrew Cuomo mayor, especially when you have a much, much better choice in Zohran Mamdani. And there's others who are better than he is too. In fact, they're all better than he is. One other point on this. I made the case. Look, I think there are allegations. I believe them against Gates, right? Matt Gates, who former congressman from Florida, whom Trump nominated to be the attorney general. And I said the Democrats should have confirmed him. They should have voted for him. They shouldn't have taken him down. I stand by that. He would have been a much less destructive attorney general than Pam Bondi. He did apparently have sex with an underage prostitute. That's bad. It's not excusable. But again, you have to look at the options available to you. Matt Gaetz gets global warming, and that's a really serious problem. Matt Gaetz believes in antitrust lawsuits against corrupt oligarchs. Matt Gaetz was not in Trump's pocket the way Pam Bondi was. You have to look at a lot of different factors. In this case, mayor of New York, every factor militates against electing Andrew Cuomo. He is a terrible, terrible choice. All right, let's go to the debate. And I don't bring that up, sort of shifting a little bit here, but we're going to get back into, the sexual harassment allegations when we get to one of the candidates who's actually endorsed now, Jessica Ramos, has endorsed, a progressive Jessica Ramos, somebody who our revolution endorsed way back when, 2018. I remember when we endorsed her. I thought she was pretty good at that time. So there's not going to be revisionism here. But this is a supposedly progressive Democrat who's endorsing Cuomo as, I guess, a second choice. Hey, vote for me, but vote for him second, that kind of thing. We'll get into why she's doing that despite her outspoken criticisms of the former governor. But first, let's go to this debate. And I think this is really interesting this sort of back and forth. Here's NBC News, and they're covering the mayoral race. This is from, I believe, yesterday.
Welcome back. Ahead of the primary election later this month, 9 Democrats hoping to be New York City's next mayor faced off in their first debate as the frontrunner, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, was the target of attacks from all sides.
This question was about your personal regret in your years in politics.
I said I regret the state of the Democratic Party is
no
in that we elected
regrets.
Trump.
So he has no regrets about the way he conducted himself as governor. That's what he's saying. The question was, do you have any regrets? I have none. I have regrets about the state of the Democratic Party, but that's kind of right. That's not really like I did something wrong. Here's what I did wrong. Here's what I should have done differently. That would be a real regret. So I know politicians are super slippery, slimy. Hillary Clinton would never acknowledge wrongdoing. She wouldn't even say she was wrong until the very end. She sort of copped a little bit to having been wrong on supporting the war on the people of Iraq. But basically, she never took any responsibility for anything. And to me, now I know politicians do that in part because they're really, really afraid that someone's going to take what they say and they're going to run with it or say, look, they admit they're a piece of garbage. They admit that they're a warmonger. They admit whatever. But to me, that's still better if I'm going to vote. If I'm voting for somebody and I'm on the fence, somebody says, yeah, I was wrong there. I got that wrong. Here's why I got it wrong. I'm so much more inclined to vote for them than if they just act like they're, what doesn't stink. And that's Andrew Cuomo. Well, I'm sorry, the party isn't in great shape right now. That's his only regret. All right, let's hear one of his opponent's response, which is super powerful in my view.
State of the Democratic Party is
no
in that we
regrets.
elected Trump.
Not the 15.
No regrets when it comes to cutting Medicaid or health care. No regrets when it comes to cutting child care. No regrets when it comes to slow walking PPE and vaccinations in the season of COVID to Black and brown communities. Yeah. Really, no regrets.
Right. Let's turn to public safety.
So that's very powerful. I mean, that candidate was just saying, yep, what, you don't have regrets? Look at all the really bad things that you did, that, you harmed minority communities, you cut funding, for Medicaid. So how could you say you have no regrets? And of course, I would also ask him, do you have any regrets for sexually harassing, molesting all those women? And again, he's completely failed to come clean on that as well. Oh, they're politically motivated. Oh, they don't like me. Rather than any kind of, mea culpa. Yeah, all right, I'm a man. There were attractive women around me. I had trouble controlling my. I mean, that wouldn't be okay either, but at least you're being honest, right? So, to me, this guy is just bad news, has no business being in the mayor's office, being in the mayor's race. Just awful. Just really, really, really awful. Let's play a little bit more. I want to just look up one more thing here, but I want to get to this. But the endorsement, by the way, that Adrienne Adams was the woman who we heard speaking there in that very powerful response to Governor Cuomo. So now we're going to talk about endorsement. A couple of high-profile endorsements, one much higher profile than the other. So let's play this. More from NBC News. Steve Kornacki weighing in on that super high-profile endorsement of Zohran Mamdani.
Welcome back. Ahead of the primary election later this month, 9 Democrats hoping to be New York City.
All right, so that's a little bit, that's not where we want to be. Let's see if we can get to Mr. Kornacki. Here we go. So we'll get that endorsement. And I think you can see who it is as well.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, big endorsement there. Here to break down the dynamics of this race is our very own NBC News national political correspondent, Steve Kornacki. Steve, it's great to be here in New York with you.
Great to be on set with you, Kristen.
Yeah, usually we're in D.C. together. So let's talk about this endorsement by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. How could it shake up the state of the race?
I think it really reinforces what's become the main dynamic in this race, and that is we always knew Andrew Cuomo was the front runner. There's this crowded pack. Who's going to be the main challenger? I think it clearly is Zohran Mamdani, and her appeal, Ocasio-Cortez's appeal, I think overlaps with what Mamdani's has been so far. So I think it reinforces, it doesn't necessarily expand. He's doing best with younger voters, self-described very liberal voters, college-educated voters. He actually does better with white voters than non-white voters, that sort of progressive base of the Democratic.
So I'm going to stop it there for a second. So a lot of what Kornacki is saying is obviously true. I mean, you can't really argue with it. AOC has a lot of appeal to younger voters and to more progressive voters. So that is where there's complementary, overlap. The overlap. So her support is similar to his. Now that's good, of course, because there's other progressive candidates. AOC stepping in to endorse Mamdani will likely mean some of those people, maybe those who are supporting Jessica Ramos, for example, who's also from Queens, like Mamdani, like AOC, maybe who's supporting Adrienne Adams, who's progressive. Maybe they still won't put Mamdani first, but maybe they'll put Mamdani ahead of Cuomo in the ranking. And that's all you really need. That's what you need. So maybe AOC's endorsement really will help with some of those progressive voters. It's definitely positive for Mamdani. It's a good thing. But it's not completely accurate what Kornacki said either when he says, well, it's, she doesn't really expand the pie for him in terms of potential voters. She does have a lot of support, especially from Latino voters. She is herself Latino. And you can see Cuomo is leading significantly over Mamdani with the Hispanic voters. So to the extent that AOC, now I'll say with younger Hispanic voters, just like with younger black voters, I'm pretty confident Mamdani does much better than with the senior crowd. But, AOC is now 35. She's really beloved. As I understand it, there's a lot of love for her in the outer boroughs, more so than I don't have much love for her. I don't have a lot of respect for the way she's conducted herself in Congress, but she's very popular. And this will help Mamdani. Now, that said, I'm not going to give her a lot of props. I'm glad she did it. It's good. I think it will help. Maybe it's good that it came out just before the election starts, because I think the ballots will be mailed out. And there is an early voting. So within a week or so, people are going to be voting in this race. So I'm really glad AOC finally came out and endorsed Mamdani, but she waited an awful long time. And I heard one comment, I think it was, maybe it was Crystal Ball, which I thought was smart. It's like, hey, people say, oh, you should, or it was not Crystal Ball. It was the writer for The Intercept, a former writer, Ryan Grimm. And he said, hey, it may be better to endorse a little later in the game because that's when you get a lot of attention just as people are about to vote. And I take that seriously. But he also made the point, but the best thing is you endorse early and you campaign. You go out to events with him. You fundraise for him. Now, he maxed out. He's not even taking any more money. So I don't know that fundraising would have really helped him because he's taking the public financing and he got all he reached the maximum amount you can raise as a candidate and take public financing in New York City. So there's the argument that wouldn't have helped him if she helped fundraise because he didn't need help fundraising. But how awesome for him would that have been if she's out there because she draws crowds. There's no question. She bided her time. She waited. She wanted to see, well, can he make it? Is he big? Can he do it? People knew 3-4 months ago that the one potential the one candidate who had the potential to defeat Andrew Cuomo was Mamdani. He was clearly the rising star for some time. And I get AOC wanting to be sure, wanting to feel like, well, is he really going to, I don't want to waste my endorsement on somebody who isn't likely to win. I sort of understand that, but you're doing your fighting oligarchy tour. Who's the biggest oligarch of all? Cuomo. This was a guy who did everything he could to avoid raising taxes on Wall Street, to avoid raising taxes on big corporations. When he was being investigated for corruption, he broke up. He shut down the government agency that was designed to investigate, that was supposed to investigate him. I mean, he's the worst of the worst. If she's not going to endorse earlier, she could have said, hey, I'm choosing between several candidates, but for sure don't endorse. Don't vote for Cuomo. I mean, there were lots of ways she could have done it. But I don't want to be too hard on her. I think she should have gotten involved earlier. I think she should have endorsed Mamdani earlier. I get it. You don't want to back a losing horse. On the other hand, why don't you want to back a losing horse? Seems to me you should be willing to go out on a limb and really, really aggressively fight for a candidate that you think would be the best choice, the best mayor of the city. So I'm glad. This is a good thing. Yes, it's good that AOC endorsed Mamdani, and I do think Kornacki's off a little bit. I think she could expand the pie, especially when it comes to those Latino voters. All right, 240-242-5646 if you want to join me. 240-242-5646. It is Halitics. Don't forget, click like, click subscribe, all that good stuff. Join us on Halitics, in the Halitics group on Facebook. This is, all ways to support the truly progressive messaging, the truly pro-life messaging that we present here every weekday on Halitics. And sometimes you get more than one because like I said, I uploaded the Carlos Child, friend of Halitics, Carlos Child's interview this morning, and I'm going to be recording tonight, so I'll have another video for you over the weekend as well. So good for AOC, a little bit qualified because I would have preferred if she had gotten involved a little bit earlier, but hey, again, better late than never, and maybe I'm overstating that. I really want to be not necessarily fair. I don't really care so much about fairness exactly, but I want to be accurate. And that endorsement's getting a lot of play, a lot of attention. So this could be a big shot in the arm for Mamdani. Jessica Ramos, I mentioned her, progressive Queens State Assembly member, and she endorsed the man she called a remorseless bully. And she was calling that in the context of sexually harassing staffers, and not just staffers, people just in Albany. So she had only for years the negative things to say about Cuomo. She's a progressive. She can't possibly support him on policy. And Morning Spew, which I get their emails, it's part of, I think it's called Hellgate Publications, ask a really good question. She is on the slate of Working Families Party. Working Families Party does an awful lot of pro-Democratic Party stuff, and I can't stand it. But here they're taking the right tack. They're like, let's defeat, Cuomo first, like a Germany first. We talk about Germany first policy. We got to defeat Germany. So their position is we got to defeat Andrew Cuomo, 100%. They're totally right about that. And they ask, well, why would Ramos, who Working Families Party actually did say, put her fifth on your ranked choice vote. Now, again, being fifth on the list ain't so great. You want to be first, maybe second. If the first choice is kind of a long shot, maybe you're second, you get their votes. Fifth is pretty far down. It's not going to help her. She's not going to win with fifth. She's not going to win anyway. But the question is, why would she endorse the man that the slate exists to stop? A man she called a bully, a man whose policy she totally opposes. She's, as far as I know, she's Medicare for all. She always was. She's for working people. She's the opposite of Andrew Cuomo. So what's the reason? So they give you some really interesting reasons, which I think Hellgate, they do a nice job here. First of all, she owes money, or at least she has no money. And presumably she may owe money. I don't know if she does, but she has less than $10,000 in the bank. And who knows, maybe there's some deal she cut with Cuomo. Maybe he'll assume some of her debts. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that he can do that. Maybe he's offered her a job in his administration. So she's looking out for herself. She's saying, hey, Cuomo is in first. She probably figures he'll still win, even if Mamdani is closing the gap rapidly. And she's also in a position to leverage what little support she has to get something out of Cuomo. So that may well be, that may explain it, at least in part. Doesn't make her look good, though, does it? Doesn't look like Jessica Ramos, the Democratic progressive from Queens, doesn't look like she's putting the people of the city first. At least not if you look at that explanation, which is that she needs money. And then they go on to provide, does Hellgate in their morning spew, some other potential reasons for the endorsement of Cuomo by Jessica Ramos, somebody that she's had nothing but contempt for throughout her political career. They point out some personal reasons. She doesn't like Mamdani. She's jealous. Maybe she's jealous of Mamdani. She's angry at Working Families Party. They should have backed her sooner and higher up on their list. And she's like, well, wait, Mamdani, I've been in Queens Assembly. I've been in the state assembly. I've been running for office. I'm a progressive. Why is he ahead of me? And I get that. If I were she, I might be very upset and resentful too. But put it aside. Don't you want what's best for your city? His policies are much closer to yours than big bully Cuomo's. He's not corrupt, at least as far as we know. We haven't seen any evidence. It hasn't come out. He's for the people that you represent. He's looking at calling for rent freezes, at least on lower and middle class homes, apartments. He wants free public transit. You're in Queens. Free public transit would be extraordinarily great for the folks that you represent who commute into Manhattan. So I don't get it. It doesn't, from a purely policy standpoint, there's zero reason for Jessica Ramos to endorse Cuomo. But there's personal reasons. There's money reasons. And there's also the AOC factor. Apparently Ramos, kind of to my way of thinking, to her credit, she doesn't like AOC either. Apparently they don't get along. She's been critical of AOC. She views AOC as kind of a phony. More concerned, says Ramos, according to Hellgate, more concerned with her national profile than her constituents. I don't think that's unfair. I don't think that's inaccurate. But I guess she's mad that, well, AOC endorsed Mamdani. I'm not going to go with her candidate. Again, personal pique trumping the best interests of her constituents. Now, why do I spend a lot of time going after Jessica Ramos for this? I don't know Jessica Ramos. I don't think I ever met her. I don't have any personal anger towards her. This is because this is your Democratic Party. It's filled with people, self-dealers, people just in it for their own personal gain. Tremendous amount of corruption involved, and it corrupts good people. And I think that's exactly what probably happened with Jessica Ramos. So we ultimately cannot look to that party for relief. Now, I hope Mamdani wins. I think Mamdani would be a good mayor based on everything I've read and seen, and certainly far, far, far better than Cuomo would be. But that said, I thought Bill de Blasio would be a really good mayor. And I don't think he was the worst mayor. I don't think he was a terrible mayor. But in the end, he really didn't take on Wall Street. In the end, he really didn't take on the elites. Will Mamdani? Seems like he might. Hope he will. Why, after all this, though, and again, we can understand, we can see the reasons why, the benefits that might accrue to Jessica Ramos for endorsing for endorsing Andrew Cuomo, even if she doesn't like him, even if she doesn't agree with his policies. There's personal factors that militate in favor of Cuomo, and also financial reasons. So that all kind of makes sense, even though she can't stand the guy. Apparently, she's certainly been critical of him. But then you say, well, why would Cuomo care about Ramos? If you look at this poll, Ramos is at 3.5%. I mean, what good does that do Cuomo? Why does he care about her endorsement? It's so de minimis. Well, again, it all boils down to that ranked choice voting setup. If just a 0.5% of Ramos's voters put Cuomo ahead of Mamdani as a result of that endorsement, that could mean the difference. It's so close. It's 54-46 if you round Cuomo down and round Mamdani up. And with the AOC endorsement, that's going to close the gap even more. So every tiny little bit. Cuomo's aides, Cuomo look at that 3.5% of Ramos, and they think we want every single Ramos voter to put us 2, to put us 3, to put us 4, put us anywhere as long as it's ahead of Mamdani. That's what the Cuomo team is saying. And that's why they did it. So that's kind of the sleazy side of ranked choice voting. All that said, I like it. I think it's great. Because in the end, whoever wins cannot be denigrated with the claim, well, they didn't win a majority of the votes. In the end, a majority of New Yorkers will put them ahead of the second place finisher. And that's a good thing. Taking a deep sigh, deep breath. Would love to hear from you now. 240-242-5646. We've got Ari, we've got Emogi in the chat. Emogi, howdy. Hey, Emogi. Dems have no collective vision that they pursue, just individual careerism. Great word, careerism. I was fumbling for that one. That exactly describes what Jessica Ramos is doing. She's putting her own career ahead of everything else. It's not even like she's just weighing it in the balance. That's all she's caring about here. Doesn't matter if Mamdani is much better in her opinion on the issues. It doesn't matter. Her career is the only thing that she's factoring in. And so you're absolutely right, Emogi. And this is why we've got to go in a different direction than Democrats. And I'll give you another reason. So I've talked a lot about, the Gaza genocide, and I talk a lot about ecocide. They're both existential threats, obviously. This is a picture of the wildfires right now. I mean, it's not right now, but this is back on May 27. So a week ago, a little over a week ago, and the fires continue. We've got a lot of haze outside in my house, and I'm 300-400 miles. I think I must be even more than that from Canada, and maybe 800 miles from Manitoba. Canada didn't used to get these wildfires. You have wildfires in California. You have more and more now. Didn't used to get them in Canada because it wasn't very hot. Canada just didn't get that hot. But now, long, dry seasons, ever hotter. You can see this is NPR, right? This isn't some radical lefty group that's saying this. I just took this quote right from an NPR article. NPR, the hotter, drying conditions that come with climate change are making these annual fires across North America and in other parts of the world the new norm. So it's not just making these, serious, these making more serious fires the norm. There weren't annual fires in Canada. This is a new phenomenon that is directly secondary to humans burning fossil fuels. So that's why I say we're destroying our mother. That's why I say we're burning up our mother. It's horrific. It's existential indeed. And I will keep saying that. I know some people think, people will say, oh, you're overseeing your Chicken Little, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. What the hell is, of course it's falling. And I say to the, Democrats, you wanted us to vote for somebody who was for fracking. You wanted to vote for somebody who couldn't think of one thing that she would do differently than Joe Biden, who broke the record for most petroleum produced in a 4-year period, breaking Trump's record, who broke Obama's record. So I say to Democrats, if you really care about the youth vote, if you care about the planet, then you got to embrace a different strategy. But the politicians can't do that. The major party, the duopoly, the corporatocracy party candidates can't do that for two very closely related reasons. The first reason is because they get a ton of money from the oil companies and the coal, the fossil fuel companies. They get a ton of money. That money comes with a string that you have to attach. You have to do what we want. And if you don't do what we want, we're going to use that money to defeat you, take you down, to destroy you. So that's the reason one. Huge amounts of money from the fossil fuel companies. The second reason, closely related, if you're going to take on the oil companies, the fossil fuel companies, if you're really going to take on the climate catastrophe, the climate cataclysm, if you're really going to do something about it, the only thing that will work, the only way to succeed is to make fossil fuels much more expensive. You have to raise the price relative to everything else. You have to raise it, and you have to keep raising it. You have to keep making it more and more and more expensive to consume fossil fuels. Now, that is obviously a political non-starter unless you take that money and you redistribute it down. You say, okay, well, we're going to take money from everybody who buys fossil fuels, but we're going to take that money and we're going to give it back to poor, struggling, and working people so they have the money in their pockets available to use alternatives, to use anything but coal, gasoline. And this will also drive tremendous innovation in the clean, green energy market. It will drive tremendous innovation to use for the utilities, to use solar, wind, geothermal, anything but fossil fuels. But you can't do it. You can't politically do it, because if you even propose a fossil fuel tax, you'll get immediately attacked by everyone. The Republican will attack you. The Democratic Party, who's also the Democrats in the party who are also corrupt, will attack you. So there's politically no way, if you're a Democrat, to actually take on this existential crisis that we're living through, this crime against not just humanity, which is what Israel's doing, although it's also committing a terrible crime against the climate. But the climate catastrophe is a crime against life. It's against life itself, a crime. And yet, Democrats, even if they wanted to do something about it, really aren't politically able to. They're too, as a party, too, as a group, compromised, too corrupt. We must go in a totally different direction. We must elect Greens. We must elect independents if we want to save the planet. Obviously, Trump is not the answer. Obviously, Trump, this issue, like on many others, is arguably worse. I say arguably, yes, he is a denier. Democrats don't deny it. But Democrats are much more free traders than Trump, and free trade is terrible for the environment. Grist, Trump officials open up millions of acres in Alaska to drilling and mining. I don't know how much of that is going to happen, because right now we have a surplus of oil and gas. So I don't know that they're going to, right? Prices are down. It's not like there's this enormous pent-up demand. But at some point, presumably, they're going to start drilling in there, and it's just awful. Just awful. So obviously, we can't look to Trump. Trump is an enormous part of the problem, just as the Democratic Party is. Got to go in a different direction. So there you see some pretty pristine area in Alaska. There's nothing there. Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, nothing there that you can see except just dunes and tundra and mountains. But probably at some point you'll be seeing a refinery, and you'll see oil wells. And it's horrible. There's no good thing to be said about it. And the idea, finally, that this somehow, well, it's Alaska, it's far away, it doesn't really impact us. If the people of Alaska want it, well, then what do we care? No. Consuming oil, consuming gas, consuming petroleum is so harmful, so destructive to us, both from a climate standpoint, but even just day-to-day lives. So here, right up the road from me, Baltimore Harbor, Johns Hopkins, super rich, super influential, super woke, progressive college, university. They just overfilled some of their oil, tanks that they have. They have these big, I don't know, drums where they keep a lot of their fossil fuels. And they just kind of messed up. Oh, yeah, there's plenty of room. Keep putting more gas. Keep putting more oil in there. And they overflowed it, and they overfilled it, and it went right into the harbor. So it's terrible using this stuff. It's toxic. It's poison. Final word, go in a different direction. Vote green. Vote independent. Vote for anyone but a Democrat or Republican if you possibly can. And I'm not saying vote for the Libertarians because I don't support them either. But if there's a progressive in a race and they're not a Democrat, man, that's who you vote for, in my opinion. All right, have a great weekend. I know it's a little bit shorter program, but if you want more Halitics, again, I really do recommend the hour. I did more than an hour with Carlos last night. It's up there. It's the New York thumbnail there, the map of New York, and then we'll have more for you with Kristen Hoffman over the weekend. She did a really cool video, depressing as all get out, where she very powerfully takes on the genocide. I'll be back Monday. Have a great weekend.